Welcome back, everybody. It's Zach here, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. This one will be going over some trade targets for Week 7. We're really going to start taking a look at rest of season schedules, doing what we can to make sure that we're optimizing our rosters for players that are really going to make a difference for us when we get into the playoffs. Especially as we get later on, a little bit later on into the season, I'm definitely going to start splitting these up a little bit in terms of really identifying how you need to approach trades based off of how you're standing right now. Because obviously, like Emeka Egbuka, great trade target if you're 6-0, but not necessarily someone you want to be trading for if you're 1-5 right now. So things like that are definitely worth making note of. These are one of my most fun sets of videos to make every single week. I am that guy in every single league that's sending out trade offers every single week, and I do find that it gives me a pretty significant edge over everybody throughout the course of the season. So, I just sort of take the shotgun approach, figure if I'm going to win more than half of my trades, it's going to help me in the long run. So that's sort of my approach. It's a lot of fun as well. I think that you're always just, one trade away from dramatically turning your season around. So we're going to go over 6 players in this video that I'd be looking to trade for, and there'll be another video today as well going over players that I would be looking to sort of sell high on. So if you have any specific trade questions, let me know in the comments below, and enjoy. Let's get into it. So my number one trade target this week is actually going to be Quinshon Judkins. Had a horrendous week last week, obviously. Tough matchup against the Steelers. The offense really just didn't seem to know what they wanted to be. Like, the identity of the Browns offense in general should be run the ball, play defense with that really good defense. Maybe you can squeak out a few wins. For whatever reason, they chose to drop back and throw the ball 52 times. That's certainly not going to play into what you'd want to see out of Quinshon Judkins, although, you typically would have seen him get a little bit more involved in the passing game under those circumstances. But I don't think there's any reason to be concerned here. He was playing 90% of the snaps each of the previous 4 weeks. He is just a legitimately really talented player, and he's just by far the best player this offense has to offer right now. As far as I'm concerned, he's a high-end running back 2 the rest of the season, and I think in general you've got a rookie running back on the Browns coming off of a horrible game. I think there are going to be some people that are a little bit concerned about it, and there's no reason to be concerned about it going forward. The Browns have the single best strength of schedule for running backs the entire rest of the season. And it starts next week with the game against Miami, who's given up over 200 yards to Rico Dowdle and then a career game to Kamani Vidal over the last 2 weeks. And no disrespect to those 2 guys, but I'm pretty sure Quinshon Judkins is a better player. Won't be shocked at all if Judkins goes for like 150 and 2 next week, and that buy low window is going to slam shut. So if there's any sort of buy low window on Judkins, it's open right now, and now's the best time to go try and get him if you can. Our only repeat on this list from last week is going to be Lamar Jackson. I mentioned him last week saying you were going to be trying to trade for him, understanding that you're not going to get him last week or this week because they're going on their bye. But we know that Lamar Jackson's a tier 1 quarterback. He's arguably going to be the quarterback 1 over the back half of the season, and the beautiful part is he's been given time to rest here. So Lamar Jackson should come back fully healthy once we get into week 8, and the playoffs are going to start for the Baltimore in week 8. They're going to have to go out there and win, probably 8 of their last 10 games, right? Like they're, 8 of their last 11, maybe 9 of their last 11. Like they got to go 8-3, 9-2 to have a shot at the playoffs the rest of the way, and they can do that, right? This is exactly the situation the Bengals found themselves in last season. You've got a horrible defense, superstar quarterback, really good offense. It turns into a lot of fantasy production when these teams are in situations where they can't afford to just have a down game. Lamar's going to go out there and probably be the number 1 quarterback in fantasy over the back half of the season, and there's no way he necessarily costs you that right now. People are certainly going to be a little bit concerned. I know they're not too panicked on him, but the teams in my leagues that have Lamar Jackson, they are not doing very well in general. Those teams really can't afford even to maybe take a loss this week. Like if you've got a team that's 1-5, like the Ravens are, they're probably going to be pretty willing to move on from Lamar because they just don't want to drop to 1-6. It's really hard to come back from that in fantasy. Going to be really hard for the Ravens to come back from that this season as well. But I'm super stoked about Lamar the rest of the way. Pretty much everyone still has a bye coming up. So as far as like expected games missed the rest of the way, like Lamar is right in line with every other quarterback, even though he's coming off an injury. I'm stoked to get him anywhere I can. I've been offering Dak Prescott and Tucker Kraft in a league for him. Like that sort of trade is something I think you could maybe get done. I do think that Lamar is going to be a huge asset for you guys down the stretch. So definitely go try and get him if you can, because you're not going to be able to after this week. I'm going to double dip on the Ravens here. I think Mark Andrews is actually a pretty savvy buy low. The main reason with Mark Andrews is just that he's free, but the Ravens have the single easiest strength of schedule for tight ends the rest of the way, meaning that they're in a situation where Mark Andrews is going to have plus matchups the entire rest of the season. Their playoffs, like I mentioned with Lamar, they start next week, not this week because they're on bye, but the week after that. The Ravens are in must-win mode. They've got a horrendous defense. They're going to have to put up a lot of points, and when the Ravens are scoring a lot of points with the usage in the red zone that Mark Andrews has, he's going to be a threat to score a touchdown every single week. I think he could be a sneaky top 5 tight end the rest of the way, and he's free, right? Like I've seen him dropped to waivers over the first several weeks in some of my leagues. He certainly has not been a reliable asset so far this season, but it's tough to be reliable when you've got backup quarterbacks each of the last 2 weeks. Was actually doing all right up until Lamar got hurt. I think Andrews is going to be a valuable fantasy asset the rest of the way, and he's pretty much free in leagues right now. So if you need a tight end, if you're just streaming the position every single week, Mark Andrews is a guy that I think you could go out there and get for pretty much free, and honestly just pencil in your lineup from week 8 on the rest of the season. Moving on to our first wide receiver today, I want to highlight Devonta Smith. First off, the Eagles are pretty banged up on defense, actually, and that does open up the door a little bit for Devonta Smith in this offense. They just need to throw the ball a little bit more. They're going to have to actually score some points to win games, and they've also got some injuries across the offensive line that's really made it a little bit more difficult for them to run the ball effectively, and that's sort of what you want if you're a Devonta Smith owner, right? You want to see the Eagles have to drop back and pass the ball, and it seems like they're going to have to do that a little bit more this season than they had to do last year. They also have the 4th easiest strength of schedule for wide receivers the entire rest of the season. You love to see that. Devonta Smith, we know, is an incredibly talented player. The schedule the rest of the way is going to be favorable. And there's also some untapped upside there. Things are just a little bit weird with A.J. Brown, and I don't think it'll happen, but I think there's a non-zero chance that the Eagles maybe make a move and trade A.J. Brown. It would take a pretty crazy offer, right? But, like, A.J. Brown is not a guy that's necessarily been a positive influence in the locker room lately. It seems like week in, week out, you're hearing just noise out of A.J. Brown. And the Eagles are known to do some pretty crazy things. They're one of the more forward-thinking franchises in the NFL. They're willing to take chances like that. So if there is a franchise that was willing to do that with Howie Roseman at GM, I think A.J. Brown getting traded is at least on the table. And if that happened, both Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert, for that matter, would instantly just skyrocket up value. Right now, Devonta Smith, he's a wide receiver 33 on the season so far. I think he can easily be a top 24 guy the rest of the season, so I think there's value there. And then if A.J. Brown were traded, like there's legitimate top 12 upside there for Devonta Smith. So I think he's a guy worth having. If he's your wide receiver 3 or 4, I feel pretty good about that. And I think he's not going to cost you a whole lot more than that. So I've definitely kicked the tires on him just because he's super talented, a lot of upside. I think they're going to be some good weeks going forward for Devonta Smith. 2 tight ends in the list this week, but I got to mention Brock Bowers. Similar to Lamar Jackson, banged up, obviously not done what you drafted him to do so far this season, but he's going to be likely out this week in week 7, then he does bye in week 8. But from week 9 on, I think it's fair to say that Brock Bowers could easily go out there and just be the tight end 1 the entire rest of the season. We saw it week 1, right? Brock Bowers came out, was immediately fantastic, had like 120 yards on 5 catches, got hurt, didn't even play a full game, put up that stat line, and just hasn't been the same since. And honestly, this Raiders offense hasn't been the same since either. I think that things are going to get better for this Raiders offense. Geno Smith is not as bad as he's been up so far this season, but you're going to have to wait 2 more weeks, and this is a situation, again, where if you're 5-1, 4-2, 6-0, the managers that have Brock Bowers right now are likely not in that position. They're probably 1-5, 2-4, maybe 3-3 if they've managed their teams really well, and they probably can't afford to eat 2 more L's the rest of the way here. I've seen plenty of offers come my way in the leagues I'm in where teams are looking to send me Brock Bowers. They're not exactly fantastic offers, right? Like someone offered me Bowers and Cooper Kupp for George Pickens and Tucker Kraft this morning. I'm not going to accept that. I had to think about it, but I'm not going to accept that offer. But the fact of the matter is, if people are sending you offers, including Brock Bowers, they're clearly willing to move him, right? You don't typically see, like, nobody's sending out offers with Jonathan Taylor in it right now, right? It's just that he's not a player that people are looking to move, and there is clear availability for Brock Bowers in fantasy leagues right now, and he's a guy that can actually be a difference maker at the position, and those are tough to come by. So I definitely want to at least kick the tires on it. I think if you could trade Tucker Kraft and like a wide receiver 3 caliber player, I think it's definitely a quality move. I didn't want to do it when it was Kraft and Pickens. That's why this Kraft and wide receiver 3 came out. I countered with Kraft and Wandale. Felt like it wouldn't get accepted. It didn't, but I think if you could put together some sort of trade like that, I do think that Bowers is going to be worth it, and I think the upside is definitely there. And it's not like you need to tell you how good Bowers is. So if he's available, just go see what you can do to get him, because we know he's going to be fantastic if he can get healthy. And the last player I'm going to mention here is Mike Evans. He's sort of like a forgotten player this season. Not sexy. You've got the new hotness here in Emeka Egbuka, but I think Evans might just be a legitimate wide receiver 2 for the entire rest of the season once he returns, which could be as soon as this week. Godwin came back a little bit, didn't do a whole lot, and now he's missing more time. It seems more and more like it's just going to be a down year for Godwin. It's tough to come back from these season-ending injuries. We've seen it before with Godwin, where it took him about a year to come back. He wasn't really great until that second year. Could easily see that with Godwin again here. And then now we've got Emeka Egbuka banged up, likely going to miss a few weeks. Likely going to miss this week and next week, and then should be good to go after their bye. But over the next 2 weeks, you get Detroit and New Orleans, and then you've got your bye. So over those 2 weeks, assuming Mike Evans could get back this week, I think Evans would be a fantastic start in each of those 2 games. And then the beautiful part here is if you look at the playoffs, you get Atlanta, Carolina, and Miami. Those are 3 straight games that we could easily see really high total point scores in. Evans is a guy that could easily go out there and put up 100 yards and a touchdown in each of those games. I think Evans is going to be a really valuable fantasy asset the rest of the way. And I don't typically like pushing narrative stuff, but Mike Evans is still going to push for that 1,000-yard season this year. He's missed a couple of weeks, so he's obviously got to get going here. But this team really cares about that record. They care about Mike Evans being able to do that. And like we saw last season, they really did sort of manufacture that. If they're going to do that, Mike Evans is going to be very fantasy relevant the rest of the way. They're at least going to try. Like, they're not going to let Mike Evans' streak end without giving it a good shot there. He was dropped in one of my 10-team leagues the week he got hurt. So, like, people are not that high on him. Like, people are not dropping guys like CeeDee Lamb after they got hurt. There's no way Emeka Egbuka's getting dropped right now. Like, people were willing to move on from Mike Evans in some leagues, right? And I just don't think people are super excited about him, but we know he's talented. This offense needs him right now, especially with a couple weeks without Egbuka. And he's just a different player than Egbuka. They're going to serve different roles. Egbuka is going to be more the possession receiver, stretch the field, and Evans is going to be that red zone threat. And I think Evans can still go out there and be really fantasy relevant the rest of the way. And he's about as cheap of a wide receiver, too, as I think you can get right now. So if he's available, definitely go kick the tires on him because I do think he's going to be a guy that can make a difference for you the rest of the way. So that'll do it for players that I'd be looking to trade for this week. Up next, I'll be going over some players that I would be looking to sell high on ahead of week 7. So stay tuned for that video. That one should also come out today. As always, if you guys haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. There's 5 videos every single week. It's all free for you guys. I'm going to be here all year long. And if you're enjoying the content and don't want to miss anything out that comes out in the future, just subscribe. That way you can support me and also just stick around, hopefully win some championships together. So I appreciate you guys. If you made it this far in the video, give it a thumbs up. It helps me out quite a bit. And if you have any questions on trades or anything like that, let me know in the comments below. I will respond to you. It's one of my favorite things to do in this. So appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you guys with the next one. Peace. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, check out these other videos here if you haven't. If you want more content, please feel free to follow me on Twitter at RealSteelFFB. I'll be more active on there as the season goes on. Thanks. Catch you later.